Welcome to the Fitness and Finance Podcast with Jeff Smith from The Retirement Smith and Jennifer Scherer from Fredericksburg Fitness Studio. True wealth isn't just about finances. It's about maintaining a healthy body and a secure financial future. The Fitness and Finance Podcast is here to help you build strength in both areas, tackling financial strategies for retirement while also discussing ways to stay active, healthy, and energized. Now let's get started with Fitness and Finance.
The bass.
I feel like I want to dance every time I hear it.
I feel like we're on Hollywood Squares or the Brady Bunch.
Right?
Yes.
When I break it down like this.
I know. I love it.
I mean, we could do this, but then it, I don't know. I kind of like this.
I do too. It means that we're closer.
Yeah.
Aw.
Nice. Well, hey, I'll just bring us in really quick. Again, welcome to Fitness and Finance Radio. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. And as always, our hosts, this is their show. It's awesome. Jennifer Scherer and Jeff Smith. Love to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me on your show once again. And as our viewers can see, the listeners will find out soon, a huge get for the show today, a very special guest. I don't know how you guys land these guests.
I don't know about that.
An artist, just extraordinary background.
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm going to let you introduce our special guest today.
Yeah. So today we are joined by Alison Sullivan, licensed clinical social worker, owner of Alison Sullivan and Associates. She is a licensed clinical social worker in Virginia with over 20 years of experience and advanced training in trauma-informed and integrative mental health approaches, including EMDR, which is a big topic of today's show, somatic work, mindfulness, and nutritional psychotherapy.
Wow.
Her work is deeply focused on helping women heal from trauma, life transitions, and long-standing emotional patterns in a way that's affirming, non-judgmental, and whole person-centered. Alison is passionate about walking alongside people as they reconnect with their inner power and create lives that feel meaningful and deeply satisfying. So welcome to the show, Alison,
Wow.
and thank you so much for being here.
Nice intro.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So
Great.
I had sent a couple topics that I wanted to cover today, and one of them is EMDR. And so, Alison, if you could just start out by kind of sharing with our listeners what that is and, how it might be something they could explore.
Yeah, absolutely. EMDR stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. It's an intervention that really kind of helps our brains file and sort experiences that, because we're busy surviving them, our brains don't file and sort. We just kind of get through them. So they kind of get stuck. And anytime we experience situations that even look a little similar, sound a little similar, we can go back into that survival mode. So EMDR is a way to support the brain in making sense of those, filing those, sorting those, and helping people get unstuck, because trauma tends to collapse time. So processing trauma in a way that helps the brain sort the experiences, extends and pulls that timeline back out so someone can understand what happened in the past while also remaining in the present circumstance.
Okay.
Awesome. So I have a quick question. Sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
Well, here's just for listeners new to therapy, for someone listening who thinks, I don't have trauma, right? How might EMDR still be relevant to them? Like, what are some, everyday experiences outside of like big traumatic events where
Is
EMDR
working with Jeff on the list? Because I don't feel like I've had trauma in my life, really. I mean, I feel like I've got it pretty good. I'm pretty good natured. I'm a pretty happy guy. But then I have been working quite a while with Jeff Smith. So
You probably have a significant amount of what we call small T trauma. maybe not big T trauma, but small T trauma.
What is that?
what is small T trauma?
That's more relational in betrayals, losses, things like that don't
Yeah.
center on um,
A major.
chronic trauma from systemic inequity, chronic trauma from childhood abuse,
Oh,
chronic trauma from being in an abusive relationship,
sure.
natural disasters, military experiences, all kinds of things. There are things that people find difficult to recover from that it doesn't really land in those neighborhoods, but it's more just the everyday relational patterns of disconnect, patterns of betrayal, patterns of deceit.
Sure.
Mhm.
And Jeff I have none of those issues with Jeff. So that's good. I don't mean to make light, because that's what you're talking about is very
Yeah.
serious. I'm just like every day have to see Jeff in a cutoff t-shirt, no sleeves, flaunting it, that
Yeah.
type of thing is what I
Oh,
was talking
man.
about. But
Well, that's
I cannot relate my Jeff and I's relationship in any way to any type of traumatic situation, I guess.
Thanks, Drew.
I was trying to give Jeff a hard time there, but it turns out that's not going to work.
They're kind of backfired on us.
Yeah, it backfired on me big time.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
I have a question for you. Like, so you mentioned like a bad relationship where, I mean, I know of situations where, 20 years of, degrading slowly over time.
Mhm.
How does one just kind of pick a point and start to heal from that through what you're talking about? Or is it more like over time reversing some of those things or reframing what happened kind of thing?
That's a really excellent question. So EMDR is most researched with single incident trauma. It has really incredible results with single incident trauma. It can be effective with more complex trauma, but it's not as straight a line,
Mhm.
because when somebody's experiencing a situation like that for that length of time, all of the things that a person's brain has to do to survive it
Mhm.
has to get untangled, has to get explored. And so, can EMDR be a useful part of that recovery? Absolutely. Is it as quick and cut and dry? No.
Mhm. I want to connect this to fitness because I find many clients, I think, struggle emotionally when they start addressing their body image and wanting to improve their health. So, you know, how can, unresolved emotional patterns show up in that realm, like as avoidance of exercise or, cycles of starting and stopping fitness routines?
Mhm.
And, have you seen that? Have you seen EMDR help people who struggle with consistency and motivation and body image, around movement?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I
Okay.
absolutely have seen that. I wish, when I come on these podcasts, I often wish I could give such simple answers to these things,
Wow.
because we do like neat and tidy, simple answers. But the reality about relational health, mental health, it's just not that simple. It's really context specific. And there's all kinds of intersectional dynamics that influence that. So let's say somebody who was raised in a middle income family, let's say a woman raised in a middle income family, probably in a suburban neighborhood with access to all kinds of enriching experiences, but also living in a society where generally women uh, end up having a lot of body issues, body related issues. There's a lot of cultural focus on that. There's all kinds of influences that add to that. So somebody like that using EMDR to support working through some of the hurdles of conflict they may have with their body, EMDR is probably going to be really effective. Now, on the other hand, let's take somebody who is in a racial minority, who grew up in poverty, didn't have access to all of these enriching opportunities. Their process is likely going to be more difficult because there's all kinds of negative messaging they likely have had to sift through.
That makes sense. And as a dietitian in that realm, I deal with clients using food to self-soothe, or,
Absolutely.
they struggle with, craving like high reward foods.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, is there a place for EMDR to help with that emotional eating?
Mm-hmm.
And what's
Oh,
the connection?
absolutely.
Okay. And what's the
Absolutely.
connection between that trauma that they turn to food and crave those high reward food? What's that connection emotionally, or is there one?
Yeah, and it varies to the individual. I think maybe it's going to be more helpful for people to think about that as a survival strategy. If we think about survival in terms of fight, flight, freeze, anything we're using to numb, which food is a really great tool to numb with, because you hit that sweet spot of sugar, salt, and fat, and you're going to get comfortably numb. So it's more of a survival strategy for folks.
Okay.
So if people found at some point that numbing out was the best way to get through what they were experiencing, then food is going to be an option. It's very similar to other types of substances.
Yeah, I think so you're talking about the parasympathetic more than anything, right? That's what governs sort of that fight, flight, and freeze. Is that what
Actually, that's the sympathetic nervous system. When we're in our parasympathetic, it's more of like the rest and digest. And
okay.
yeah.
Well, okay, we'll stay on that. I mean, because I've experienced this personally, right? So I had an 8-year-long battle with panic, and some anxiety. And so sorting through all that stuff is can be very challenging. And I did lean a lot on, I got to 300 pounds by self-soothing. So I found a way out of that by understanding individual feelings instead of letting them coast and then not understand them 3 or 4 days later. So sort of the importance of training that sympathetic to acknowledge that there's fear or anger or whatever the feeling is, but that you're not in any immediate danger. Is that something that you do in just regular behavioral therapy, or is that more of the EMDR?
Both, because EMDR, when it's used in conjunction with somatic based interventions, which is what you're talking about, that kind of body awareness, and not only being able to label emotions, but understand how that physiological connection in our body, what that feels like. When those are actually paired, it can be really useful, because our mind and body is really one system. And so when therapists combine interventions like that, it can help people understand not only what's happening here, but what's happening in here. And the more that people have conscious awareness about that, the more they can consciously create and consciously manage what's happening. So polyvagal theory really talks about this well. It describes what that kind of awareness that you referenced as being in our window of tolerance. So that's in here. That's where we're going to be engaged. We're going to be curious. We're going to be able to stay in the discomfort of whatever is happening. But as soon as we are outside of that, either above it, that's where fight flight stuff is going to happen. Or we feel so compromised and so distressed, we have to shut everything down. That's when we're going to go into that numbing stuff, that freezing stuff.
So I would classify that freezing as when people say I feel stuck, right? Like they don't know what to do. Is that what you're meaning by freezing?
I mean, yeah, it can be. It can be people stuck in a pattern. It can be stuck spots. It can be anything. Fight or flight kind of, it can look like, I would imagine, I'm assuming, tell me if this seems relevant in your work, especially as it relates to fitness, where people are maybe not showing up consistently, or if that might be a type of flight. If people are in there, but they're questioning about, why are we doing this? I don't want to do this. I don't really want to do that. I know you're suggesting this, but I don't want to do that. That could be either fight or flight or both. Freezing, I think more in the work that you do I'm not even sure those people are going to find you. And
Right.
if they do, and they get to that freeze response and stay there long enough, they're not coming back.
Right. So I have a question, a deep one, probably. I don't know if we have enough time to even answer it, but
Well, I love deep questions. That's my wheelhouse.
and this is, I get this regularly. Okay. And especially when I first start talking to clients, like on the onboarding call or on the discovery call,
Okay.
I know what I should do, but I just can't seem to do it. Whether it's eating better or saving moving their body, whatever it is, they just feel stuck, but they know what they should do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like if somebody's smoking and someone well-intentioned comes up to them and is like, you need to just stop smoking. I mean, okay. I mean, who doesn't know that? But that's not really how we operate. It really is about understanding what's standing in the way of that, and how, even if it doesn't make sense, how is our mind-body system protecting us from that change? Figuring that out. And so this is where I think talk therapy can do okay, but there's a lot of exploring that has to happen in talk therapy, whereas EMDR, I have to do a lot of work in EMDR, but it's very different work. The brain is really leading the way when people are using EMDR to work through this. So it will start to navigate the hurdles and figure those out. And I can walk along somebody as they're doing that. I don't have to find the hurdles first.
Yeah. I do see that in as you're talking, I'm recalling past clients in the finance world, right? So I used to visit people's houses like that. That's how old I am. So I would go to people's houses and I would always, people would be so indecisive. And I was like, why, what is happening? What's, you could take a look around their house and there'd be clutter and like, obvious signs of, holding on to things, right? So what part of control does this mechanism provide here? I mean, is it like, geez, I can't control all these things, but I can eat, I can overeat, I can spend money, I can not save, even though I know it's bad for me, it's my choice, right? So how much of that goes into sort of the idea here that Jennifer is talking about, and what I've experienced too?
I mean, I think a lot of it, we commonly wrestle with power, control, relevance, all of those types of things. And so to the degree that somebody feels like their life is spiraling out of control, systems, relationships, finances are outside of their control or working against them, all of that's going to play into every part of their relationship with self, and money is a relationship with power. So it just is going to show up.
Well, how can the unresolved emotional experiences then, how have you seen unresolved emotional experiences influence financial behaviors like, overspending or?
I mean, I think that how haven't I seen it?
Yeah.
That's really more like it.
Yeah.
Because it really is unique to the individual. It can be all of those things, or it can be somebody who is trying to move in an intergenerational way, move the needle forward a little bit for their family. But there's blocks because that can feel like a betrayal of the family story. That can feel like I'm leaving this story, I'm leaving these people behind if I change in this way. It can really be anything.
I mean, that's awesome. I have a question for you that maybe it's a little off topic, but what about people who have been labeled unable to change? How do you move the needle for people who have some deep rooted trauma, like someone who has experienced extreme, a narcissistic parent, and they, carry that generationally? How do you, is it a willingness? What does it take for that person to really authentically change and not just kind of pull the wool over other people's eyes.
Mm-hmm. If you're talking about someone with a personality disorder, there's all kinds of answers to that. But I think the baseline for anyone is safety. And no matter what the behavior looks like, many times it's a way to try for the system to feel safe. And so people that get labeled unable to change, are there statistics that show that certain mental health conditions are unlikely to change? Absolutely. And is narcissistic personality disorder one of those? Absolutely. I think my conflict with the internet and mental health is that it raises people's awareness about this stuff, which is incredible. Love that. It also distorts what some of these conditions are, and some of them lose their meaning. And I think narcissistic personality disorder is one of those. It can be true that somebody has narcissistic traits, and they're very self-centered, and they're very critical, and they're very manipulative. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have narcissistic personality disorder.
Well, is narcissism better understood as a fixed personality, or is it, as an adaptation that?
Well, we all have traits of narcissism.
Yeah, Jeff, talk to us about that.
Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have washed my hair. I wouldn't, I wouldn't care.
Right.
So it's not that people have these traits and don't have these. It's about to the degree they have them.
I guess what I'm asking is, in your clinical experience, is change possible for people with narcissistic
personality
NPD
disorder?
Yeah.
I have not worked exclusively in that area. I will say the experience I've had in working with people who genuinely have that disorder, not much change happens.
Yeah, I think what she's asking, Allison, is if you feel that she wants to know if Jeff can change, if that's possible.
I'm not touching that with a
that's so funny. I love it.
Oh, yeah, funny. And Jeff's like, that's funny. I'm going to beat the crap out of you.
But sometimes I think these really high conflict, difficult people and relationships really don't meet the criteria for that. And so they can change. They can learn how to find safety in themselves in other ways. They can kind of heal those fractures. So it just depends if someone truly does meet that criteria.
Yeah, but it has to sort of be theirs, right? So in other words,
that's 100% the case across the board. No one's changing unless they want to. No one is. I can't make somebody want to change. No one can do that. That's the individual has to do that for themselves. And the other thing an individual has to do once they've made that decision is exert that willingness. Those are the two things I can't do for anybody else.
So in your experience, what is the genesis for change? What would be something that would have to really drive, move the needle for somebody to make, changes in their diet, in their movement? Is it typically a negative? Is it fear-based? Is it love-based? What is the impetus for that?
Sometimes fear-based stuff is going to get somebody to the table, but it's not going to keep them there. The thing that's going to keep them there in therapy, and this is where I think therapy with human beings as opposed to artificial intelligence is super critical. People, if they feel even this much safety with their therapist and they get a glimpse of what that relational safety feels like, then that's a sliver of hope that can come in. And that's what will keep people in the discomfort of changing, if they feel safe enough to work through what's standing in their way.
AI therapy.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. What?
I didn't think about that until right now.
Yeah, why did you bring that up? I'm interested now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, it's happening.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I mean, people are turning to Chat GPT
Yeah.
and all kinds of things. There's all kinds of,
Mhm.
I mean, we could talk about this for hours.
I'm sure. Wow.
Tony, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I won't be here for that duration. But yes.
So what are some myths? What are some misunderstandings about EMDR? And also, how does it differ from talk therapy? What are like the major differences?
I think that the standout way it differs from talk therapy is that, and really aligns with social work, honestly, is it allows the brain to do what it needs to do instead of the therapist digging around trying to find what the brain needs to do to resolve something. Now, does that mean that I have to pay attention? I've got to target specific things. I've got to watch specific things. I've got to modulate specific things. But that person's brain, people are really the experts on themselves. That person's brain is going to go where it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is the biggest difference between EMDR and talk therapy.
Mm-hmm. And what about some myths or misconceptions?
The misconception is that you go in, the main one that I hear is that you go into an office, you move your eyes around, or you feel some buzzers in your hands, and then you walk out after one session, you're good to go.
Yeah,
that's what we Americans like. We like a
Yes.
one,
Well, I love your answers because, Jennifer and I have done television a lot, and people want a specific answer to a general question. And I really applaud how you've handled this, because
I know
it helps us understand a lot more without giving a canned answer. And so I you can always tell a professional by somebody who does exactly what you just did. So I very much appreciate how you navigated that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for saying that. I know people really want tips and tricks.
I know.
Right.
And it really
it's so hard.
Rules of thumb don't work.
Life and navigating life is not about tips and tricks. So
Right.
I don't have those answers.
Yeah, but why do people say, you just answered, I guess. People often will say, well, EMDR works faster. And that's probably
it can. Okay, it can work faster, but I think sometimes people conflate faster with immediate.
Right.
Okay.
So because we're in such a hustle society, we're always on the move, always on the go, don't have time for this kind of stuff. How do we slow down that? I really think that if people just slow down a bit, catch their breath, that a lot of mental health issues could change pretty dramatically. Is that the information just influx on a daily basis? Is there something deeper or something, different from just overwhelming amount of information at one time?
That's an excellent question, and it depends. I'm going to give you 3 possible buckets that can go into. Yes, definitely information overload. We were not wired to have access to this degree of information and be passive consumers of it 24/7. Our circuitry is not wired for that. And we live in a society right now that really requires most people to stay hustling just to keep food on the table, just to keep their families fed, just to keep going. And so, sitting down with somebody like that and saying, hey, just let's work on some tools to build more presence, that's insulting because they have to hustle to survive.
Right.
So for them, really what's going to help them the most is systemic change that makes equity more accessible, makes everything more accessible so that they actually can slow down to survive. And then, average middle class folks, upper middle class folks, yes, starting to just learn how to be where your feet are is the place to start. But I would also ask, what's the function in that demographic? Certainly not the large population who's trying to survive, but in the people who have comfort, who have financial stability, who are just really living in a life based on wants as opposed to I've got to hustle to get my needs met. I think the question is why are you hustling?
Right.
How is
Well,
that serving you? Is that avoidance?
mhm. I mean, I think if it was a matter of hardest work that people, a woman in Africa who has to take care of a whole family would be the richest in the world, right? And we know that that's not the case, right? So, I think, for myself, I didn't start having real financial success until I started finding balance. And
Yeah.
I think we're sold the idea that the harder
Mhm.
we work, the more successful we're going to be.
100%.
Right.
That's the American dream.
Right. And it's
Dig in,
a lie.
work hard, you'll
Yep.
make it. And
Yeah.
no,
It's a lie.
nope.
Yep.
For this much of the population, perhaps.
Right.
Everyone outside of that, no.
I agree.
I mean, look how far I've made it, and I've never worked a day in my life.
I mean,
So-
Tony is the poster child for this.
She's analyzing me right now. I can tell.
I
Allison's
know,
like,
but
Allison,
I will tell you, that's the thing that most people ask the most when I'm out and about in social settings and they find out what I do. Sometimes, depending on the social setting, I'm not telling people what I do.
That's
Because
why.
one of the first questions I get is, "Oh, are you analyzing me right now?" No, no, I am not. I do not want to work outside of work. No. Nope.
Right.
Oh my
right.
That's
Well,
fair.
I don't think you have to actually work to tell that I use humor to deflect. I think,
Well, you just told on yourself. I didn't have to analyze that.
and another thing I got going for me, self-aware. See, self-aware. That
Wow.
helps.
Tony's definitely, this is how good you are, Doc. You're just pulling stuff out of him left and right, and he doesn't even know.
You're right.
It's the side door. Got to go in the side
The
door.
side door. I like
Oh,
it.
it's so good.
That's great.
Well, I think for our listeners, I think a lot of people listening, feel like they're trying to do all the right things,
Mhm.
right? In both realms, in finance as well as fitness. They're working out, they're eating healthy,
Mhm.
they're budgeting and planning for their retirement.
Yeah.
But a lot of clients keep hitting that same wall,
Yep.
And so that's where I think interdisciplinary approach between dietitians and LCSWs like yourself can be such a big mover. Have you had experience with working with individuals who have tried that interdisciplinary approach, and how has that been similar to or different from just doing talk therapy in isolation?
I mean, I think it's in my experience, it's way more effective. Anytime we stack
Right.
Healing modalities, anytime we're investing in ourselves from a place of love and care to the degree that we can access that, yes, that's going to amplify any results we get. So if somebody's doing therapy and they're being conscious about what they're eating and they're learning to have a relationship that works for them with movement, yep,
Right.
their results are going to be amplified. And when they get to a stuck spot, I think that's an invitation to explore, not criticize. Why can't I do this? Why am I not getting past this?
Right. And I can tell you that because we do all private, 100% attention is on them. There's no distractions. I have many clients who say, "Well, Jennifer, you're my therapist." And I'm like, "Well, I listen, but I'm not your therapist." And I often will say, like, I really would strongly recommend that you invest in that, because I can tell you the clients that do both, dramatically different.
Absolutely. And I think that underscores my point about safety, which you just said, because once those clients feel safe with you, that they are interpreting that as therapeutic. It is therapeutic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Relational safety, wherever it shows up, is reparative. Is it the same thing as therapy? No. But it is therapeutic.
Well, and I have some experience in that too, because I'll tell you, after I build a relationship with clients, and I'll tell you, I talk about this a lot, probably more than most advisors do, but I know that there's going to be stress on a relationship that first 6 months after, let's say the husband, in the environment that I'm in, it's typically husband's worked for 30 years, wife has had, raised the family, and had her own space. And then, that the husband retires, and then, they're in each other's space all the time, and they have to relearn what that relationship once was or is going to be. And there's always that stress for like, every time we have like a quarterly, meeting, and the wife is like, this the whole time. And I'm like, okay, let's kind of unpack what's happening here. I think that there's, what I'm driving at is, I think if you have a place, no matter what it is, to offload some of these very high, energy topics, like fitness, like, eating, like finance, like, whatever it is that is something that is big. And unless you're, spending all your time in it, you need someone to kind of walk alongside of you. And I think therapy is important for every single person, always.
Agreed. If I had my way, therapy would be primary health care. Mental health care would be synonymous with primary health. And, that's another example of safety. And it's another example of how we do heal in connection. So we all of us want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to belong.
Right.
We want to love and be loved. Those are just universal existential wants. And to the degree that we can learn to offer that to ourselves and to everyone around us, regardless of circumstance, then we all are going to feel more safe.
Yeah. So if someone listening feels stuck right now, like they're repeating the same cycle over and over, whether it's money or health, what would be one thing you want them to know?
It's such a good question. I get so emotional about this. I would want them to know that they're enough as they are already. They don't have to earn their worthiness. They don't have to stack one more thing on top of what they're already doing to be enough, to look enough, to whatever they're doing to prove that they're enough. That's already there. And there's an opportunity to discover more how to love yourself. But everybody's okay how they are. It's never about being enough. And that's what I wonder about sometimes with stuckness, especially in fitness. Is why is it there? Are they trying to prove their worthiness? Are they hustling for their worthiness? What are they doing? Because if it's not coming from a place of love and care, it's not going to be sustainable.
Well said.
Yeah, definitely.
So good.
And we all needed to hear that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I need to hear that every day.
I know. Uh-oh, Tony, you're muted.
I might just cut that snippet from the show and play it for myself every morning when I get up. That's
he has it as like his asset. That's your morning asset.
Every time I get a text, I'm going to have that play.
Yeah.
There you go. Affirmations. It's the way to go.
Yeah. Well, hey, great show. We do need to wrap up. That's a great note to end it on. Wow, Alison, just some amazing things discussed today. And Jennifer, great questions. Jeff, I'll talk to you after the show. But seriously, great show. All three of you. I got a lot out of it. Very helpful. And Alison, I think it's great what you do.
Yes.
And it must be very rewarding also to help people and know these things that, people need to hear that and need this help along the way. We all do at different points. So I think that's fantastic. Now, before we go, if somebody wants to get more information on this or get a hold of you guys, how can they go about doing that?
Well, for Alison, for listeners who feel like, emotional health might be the missing link in their wellness or their life planning, how can they take the next step with you, Alison, or your practice?
They can just Google my name or go to alisonsintegrativehealth.org. All the information about everything we offer, the clinicians there, how to get started, all on our website.
Awesome.
Excellent. And that's Alison Sullivan, Alison with one L, Sullivan with two L's. If they want to Google your name. And That's great. Now, Jennifer, why don't you let the listeners and viewers know once again how they can get a hold of you and Jeff for financial information or fitness?
So visit our website, and it's fitnessfinancepro.com. And from there, you'll be able to select a link to book a discovery call with either one of us or both of us.
Mhm.
All right. And that's fitnessfinancepro.com. Thank you. Great guest, Alison Sullivan. Alison, great to meet you and have you on the show. I'm
Pleasure
glad
to
I
be
was
here.
Yeah, glad I was here for it. Jennifer and Jeff, again, a huge get, another great guest. And thank you guys for allowing me to hang out on the show with y'all today.
Yeah, and we'll see you, Tony, in a couple days. We're actually going to be in studio with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next week,
And
so
I need you two to hang out after we're done here. I do
Okay.
need to, I want to talk to you. So thanks. A great show, listeners and viewers. Thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Fitness and Finance Radio with our hosts, Jennifer Scherer and Jeff Smith.